All right, welcome back to Ducks and Pucks. This is your host, Mike Walters, along with my co host, Eddie Jones. We got a great show for you today. We have a special guest. You know him by the Anaheim Ducks goal noise that he makes at the games. We have Phil Hulett here later on in our podcast. We're going to do an interview with him. We're also going to talk about the Ducks defense, some of the Ducks news, including some news about Teemu Selanne recently. We're also going to cover the NHL news and fan questions as well. To start off, we're looking at the Ducks defense. Some people have had some questions about how it's going to shape up this season. And Eddie, what do you think the pairings will look like for the Ducks this coming year?
I think it's not going to really change as from last year, other than I think Stoner's going to check in for Allen. It's going to be it's probably going to move around a bit, but obviously the top six guys are going to be Fowler, Boschman, Lindholm, Lovejoy, Stoner, and Vatanen. And then it doesn't look like Surrey's going to come back. Allen, I think, is probably on his way out with Stoner coming in, and then Fistrick's going to keep his role as the seventh guy who comes in with injuries, and then if there's any more injury problems, they'll bring up guys from the minors like Matt Clark or anybody else with the same kind of role. But yeah, I think it's going to be the same pairings, just swapping out Stoner for Allen.
Yeah, and that's what it looked like last year. You had Fowler and Lovejoy were paired together majority of the time. Then you had Beauchemin and Lindholm, and then you had Allen and Vatanen paired together with Fistrick coming in there to relieve both of them. And I think Vatanen played 48 games last year. He was the only one of the other top five that didn't play most of the season. But I think definitely, as we mentioned before, he got his new contract, and I would see Vatanen playing 60 to 70 or more games this coming season.
Yeah, for sure. And Lindholm's going to be coming in for his sophomore season. And when you just it increasingly more looks like that Allen is the odd man out. He's 33 now, second or well, if you don't count Surrey, he's the second oldest defenseman on the Ducks roster behind Boschman, and he just seems to be on the outside looking in with Stoner coming in. So I think it's gonna be hard for them to move him or to get anything significant from him. If they don't move him, I just he's probably going to be a healthy scratch for most of the season. So they'll probably settle for a low pick, give him to a team that's just looking for that bottom six guy. Other than that, I really don't know what they'll end up doing with him. I doubt they'll buy him out if as a last option. So I think trade is really the only option they have.
Okay, and if they trade him, do you think that they get another defensive player, or do you think they would try and just get another draft pick?
Yeah, if it's they'd have to bundle something because there's no way he has that much value. And that's not to say he's a bad player, but he's 33. 10 points for defensive defenseman or 10 assists in 68
Right.
games isn't bad. But he's only gonna get worse when he gets older. Uh, they'd have to package something to like I said to get another defenseman in, and it's not gonna be a guy who's gonna come into the lineup and make a difference unless they package some young prospects with it. So if they trade him, I think at highest a third round draft pick, and that's stretching it a bit, maybe a fourth or a fifth. Because of there's no real need in for other teams for a defenseman like him as much. And the Ducks are the ones that will be dealing from a position of weakness that they're trying to get rid of him. So I don't really see them getting a huge return from him at all.
And if we scratch him or we don't get a good return, one of the fans, taking one of their questions earlier than we normally do, but one of the fans, Jeff from the LA area, asked if our defensive issues have been solved with what we have now in Stoner. Looking at the six that we have on, if we go Stoner instead of Allen, I'm fine with that six going, into the season. I don't see in a problem. I don't. I mean, obviously, some of the fans want a bigger name player, but I mean, you got to look at these guys' stats, look at the plus minuses and the goals and assists that everybody had, and I mean, everybody had a decent season last year. I don't see Any more issues on the defense? What do you think, Eddie?
I don't, yeah, I don't really see. It all depends. In to be honest, if Fowler can step up and become that, top 10 defenseman that he was projected to be, then we'll be covered there. He'll be our number one. Then we've got Lindholm and Vatanen. They're still young. We don't know if Lindholm's gonna be that number one, number two guy to be on the same level as Fowler. Boschman's still our main top four guy, but he's 34. And then Vatanen, we don't know if Vatanen can mature into that top four role either. And then you got the problem that then you have three offensive-minded defensemen on that top four. I know Fowler's working to become more defensive, and Lindholm showed great defensive abilities in his first season. So I think we're good now. I don't want to move any young guys to bring in a bigger stay-at-home top four defenseman. I'd like to give these guys another shot. Obviously Fowler's gonna stay. I like to give Lindholm see how he's gonna do in his second season. See how Vatanen's gonna do. And then Lovejoy and Stoner, you know what you're gonna get from them. So, but yeah, I think I'm happy with it going in like this. Obviously, fans are calling out for a top four guy. But I'd rather go in like this and give the younger guys a chance.
Yeah, I agree. I think the youth, like we mentioned also on the last podcast, it's their time this season, and I think that they'll step up and fill in just fine on the defensive end. And you brought up Lovejoy, and there's a quote of Lovejoy that came out recently this week, which I thought was a pretty awesome one. I'll just read it real quick here to everybody, but. Basically, he said that, quote, growing up in New England, I'm surrounded by Boston Bruin fans who think they're the most passionate fans in the NHL. They're great, but oftentimes they don't give Ducks fans the respect they deserve. I defend Duck fans all the time. I think they're so passionate and so into the game. There are a lot of things to do in Southern California, and the Ducks fans choose to spend their time with us. It's such an honor to play in front of a packed Honda Center. I think that goes to the testament of not just Fowler and his willingness to play for this club, but of all the other young guys on the team. We also had mentioned earlier before that the season ticket holder number has gone up to almost 13,000. So, I mean, the momentum in Anaheim, I think, is good where we're at. Even on the defense, I think we're fine. We made the moves that we did on the offense, too. And I think to round out everything, I love Lovejoy's attitude. I love all the players' attitudes that we have now. And I think that the moves that we've done now should be just the right chemistry and perfect.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree with that, and it's nice to hear players buy into the system and buy into the Anaheim Ducks. After we heard the Hiller comments, it was kind of took people aback, offended people for sure. But it's nice to hear some positive comments about the Ducks. Obviously, Getzlaf and Perry want to be here, signing long-term contracts, and Fowler's said of how much he enjoys it here. Boschman's on his second stint here, so obviously players want to play here. The fans are showing up for more games, with the representation in buying more season tickets, and that just comes with the team winning. When the team's winning, more people are going to come out, and you just hope that it can and stick around when later on if the team ever it has to come around hard times again. But I think it's grown enough now that there's always going to be passionate fans, and more people are buying into the Anaheim Ducks.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the last season with the playoff series against the Kings, the Stadium Series game, I think there's going to be another Stadium Series game this coming season. I think this one will be San Jose and the Kings. But again, it just shows you the growth of the sport as a whole in Southern California region, and from just years to come, we're going to have a lot of good hockey, and I think the Ducks are going to have a lot of good, solid teams, and it's pretty exciting, and going forward too. Some more news on the Ducks too. The new numbers came out for some of the players. I'll go through the list here. We can kind of talk about some of the surprises maybe or not. Devontae Smith-Pelly went from 77 to 12. Brian Allen went from 55 to 5. Stoner was 4 on the Wild. He went to 3. Danny Heatley switched. He was 15 on the Wild, and he switched to 51. Edom also dropped down 65 to to 16. Maroon again 62 to 19, another higher going to lower number. And then Thompson stuck with his 44, obviously, because Surrey's not going to come back, at least as a Duck. But any of these numbers surprise you, Eddie, or just no big deal?
I don't think it's as much a deal. I think DSP and Edom getting new numbers. It's hard to say in hockey as much. I know in soccer when the younger players have higher numbers and when they get into the squad they get lower numbers, and that's how you kind of rate how close they are to the squad. But um, you could say the same with Edom DSP bringing down lower numbers. In hockey, it doesn't really matter because Kane wears 88, so you can't really say that Crosby's 87. But yeah, no, I'm kind of surprised seeing DSP and Edom change. I was so accustomed to seeing DSP in 77 and Edom in 65. So it's gonna be interesting to see that. Obviously, Heatley can't come in and take 15 because Gessoff has 15, so he just swapped on the numbers to 51. Stoner comes in for 3 because Fowler has 4. Interesting to see Allen change his number to 5. And Thompson, yeah, and then like you said, Thompson coming in with 44. It kind of spells the end for Surrey. But yeah, no real surprises other than Edom and DSP kind of changing their number. That was kind of surprising to me.
Yeah, it surprised me too. I kind of like the higher double digit numbers. Like my number's 88, for example, and that's just the number I've always rolled with. So I'm used to DSP with 77 and Allen with 55. So to see them change, that's going to take some getting used to coming up. So it should be interesting. But like you said, lower numbers does in hockey it does indicate a larger role being on the team. So I expect that we'll see DSP and Edom definitely a lot more this season, as we talked about in the last podcast as well. Also with Maroon too, because as we said that there's a chance that Smith, Pelly, and Maroon play on the top line. If Heatley falters, then these guys could be the ones that we see with the Twins the majority of the season.
Yeah, and like when you see them changing numbers too, um, it just kind of indicates that it looks like they're getting permanent roles in the team too. All these guys have been. There's 2 newer guys on here, obviously, or 3, sorry, Stoner, Heatley, and Thompson. So those guys have been brought in to play in NHL. And then it's just interesting to see Maroon change his number. So Edom and DSP. It kind of seems like that means their roles are. I might be stretching, but it kind of seems like they're indicating that their roles are cemented on the team. They're getting NHL numbers where they're numbers that they pick out that they're gonna want to have for their full season with the Ducks.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and it's going to be exciting. We're going to see more of them this coming season. It'll be interesting to see the lineups, like we talked about last time too, as well, and how they're going to shape up. Definitely seeing more game time and more permanent roles, like you said. And one of those permanent roles has been gone. Teemu Selanne, we know, is retiring, and the latest news from Teemu is that they're going to honor him, which a lot of us pretty much guessed, but they're going to honor him on January on the 11th when the Ducks host the Winnipeg Jets. The games normally on Sundays are at 5 p.m. Pacific time, but it's going to be a 6 p.m. start. They plan on honoring Teemu Selanne that hour before the game, and it's going to be a great night. Obviously, some of us wanted him to come back for another year, but it should be fun time and something special because this is going to be the first Ducks player to be retired, Eddie.
Yeah, exactly. And who better to have than Solani really to be retired as the first one? There's you hard pressed to find anybody who hates Teemu Selanne. Uh, it's what a day to do it on when the Jets are coming to Anaheim, and I feel like it's gonna be reminiscent to the whole season last year where he basically had a Derek Jeter run about every arena he went to. He was honored in a way, I guess. But yeah, it'll be I'll have to watch it on TV, but it will be it'll be nice to see his the first number to get raised to the rafters.
Yeah, it should be a special occasion. Talking about that, it'll be kind of interesting too to see what's going to happen with the other news in Finland too. That came out this past week. They're talking about Selanne has been talking to the Jokerit team in Finland, and it looks like that there's going to be a decision made within the next 3 weeks. Um, what do you think, Eddie? Do you think he's going to go to Finland and play for a year or two, or like we talked about before, maybe stay and have a managerial role with the Ducks?
I don't know. I haven't heard a lot regarding it. I I I would think he would probably come back and do management management with the Ducks. But I don't know. The KHL isn't you can't say it's not a competitive league. It's been named as the second most competitive league behind the NHL. So if he feels he can still play and he wants to go play there, then all power to him. But I haven't heard enough to say either way, and but I'm sure it'll be announced soon. I doubt he'll hold off too long on his decision.
Yeah, because usually we're used to him making the decision end of July, beginning of August time when he kept doing the 1 year contracts and coming back and back and back. Um, another factor that some people haven't talked about as much has been Saku Koivu. He's the last Duck that left and hasn't signed with another team. And some people have talked about maybe he goes to the Wild and plays with his brother Miku, or maybe he goes back to Montreal with his original team. But I see a third option, and a third option is that he and Selanne go to Finland, and they could end up playing together.
Yeah, I could definitely see that happening if that could be maybe what's holding up Solani's decision. I haven't heard I've heard some things out of Solani's camp, but I haven't heard anything regarding Koivu. You could probably dig something up, but it's been relatively quiet. There's been rumors, obviously, like you said, with Minnesota and Montreal. But I think the best option for Saku, maybe his best option would just to go and finish his career with Selanne and Jokerit. Um, Minnesota, he's not. I don't see him really playing, starting in Minnesota's role with the centers they have there, and maybe Montreal, but they've got Desharnais, Galchenyuk, and Plekanec, so I don't think he really wants to be a fourth line guy, as much as he'd probably would love to play with his brother or go back to Montreal. I think he wants to play meaningful hockey, and I wouldn't be surprised if he went to Jokerit with Selanne.
Yeah, I think it would be a good fit. They could go over there. They obviously both being from Finland, would get to play in front of their home fans in their home country. So it's something to keep your eye out on. I mean, we'll keep everybody updated as we always do on the blog. When something comes out, I try to get it out there as soon as possible. So I just throw that out there because it's been very, very quiet about Saku Koivu, and it just kind of seems interesting to me because that's something that could happen, down the line. Because as you said, I don't really see him going to Minnesota or Montreal, though that's been put out there.
Yeah, and speaking of the jersey being retired, there's been some other names thrown around with Selanne being the first jersey number to be retired. There's been some speculation that who would be the next guy that would get raised to the Raptors. Paul Kariya's name has been thrown around. Scott Niedermayer's name has been thrown out there too, along with Shigeru. Who do you think would be the next in line to have their number raised to the Raptors?
For me, I think it would be Jaguar. I mean, simply because he was the one that led the Ducks to the two Stanley Cup runs. Obviously the unsuccessful one in 2003 by one game, where he won the Conn Smythe, and then of course 2007 when we went all the way and captured the cup that year. So I would see Jaguar being number one. We also did a fan poll on this too, and that's what most of the fans out there picked. They had Jaguar at 54% being the next one after Teemu. Then they had Paul Kariya at 26%, and then Scott Niedermayer at 14%. So those are your top three next candidates. And the Kariya one is kind of an interesting one because, we've talked about that before with him being on there, and it's been kind of interesting to get some mixed fan reaction, because since he left after the 2003 season, some of the fans aren't as happy with him. But I still get a big chunk of fans on the poll that think that he'll be up there. If not after Selanne, but after Jaguar.
Yeah, it's really mixed. Like most of the fans I wrote an article on Korea and if he was a hero or a zero, and I got probably about over 75% of the people saying that he was like they liked him and they thought he was a hero for the Ducks when he was here. But there is that fan base out there who still is, it rubs them the wrong way how he left. So it'd be kind of controversial to raise that flag there, or to raise his number to the rafters with the kind of reception he might receive from some of the fans at Honda Center if that was to happen. I fully believe his number should be raised up there, but it's kind of hard to do when you have a split decision between the fans. Like we know Selanne is universally loved, and along with Jaguar and even Scott Niedermayer. It's just the fans, it's so polarized between the fans with Paul Kariya. So as much as I believe he should, I don't know if they'll go that way because of the fan reaction.
Yeah, I don't think that they will. I mean, there is the other option too that they've done sometimes, and it's up to the team. That's the other thing that some people don't realize. It's the team that decides who they're going to retire, but they can also do a ceremony where they honor someone and not necessarily retire the jersey, which, again, it probably wouldn't, if it's like you said, have a mixed reaction too. So I don't even think that they would go that route either. Unless I don't know, unless he was able to come back and make amends on some level more with the fans. I don't know, but I just don't see it happening.
And it's like, would he accept it knowing that he's still not liked by a lot of the fans? Would he want to put that on himself to have to stand, on the ice in front of all these Ducks fans where there's still some people who feel some sort of animosity towards him? I don't know if he'd put himself in that situation. But it'd be interesting to see. I really hope one day his either if his number doesn't get retired, if he gets honored, or some kind of something like that where he'll at least be honored by the Ducks for what he's done. But I don't really know. It's tough with how it's such a split decision between the fans.
Yeah, definitely, Eddie. I mean, like I said, it'll be Selanne for sure, obviously, in January, and then I think Jaguar's next, and then after that, we'll see. Scotty Niedermayer is another name that comes up with a lot of the fans, and obviously he's universally loved too. The only issue that some fans have mentioned to me, and it's not a big issue, but there's some are like, well, he was only on the team for a couple years.
Yeah,
And
when you gotta kind of have a guy who's been there. Like, if Niedermayer's number gets retired, I feel it's with the Devils. So you can. I think they've. I don't know if they've honored Niedermayer yet, but they will. And I don't know if they'll retire his number. But honoring him will be there. But the real three candidates that we already mentioned are Jiggy, Paul Kariya, and Teemu. And obviously Teemu's getting his number retired this year, so or well next year. So yeah, I think those are the real three candidates right now. And other than that, you can put Scott Niedermayer in the discussion, but like you said, he was only with the team for a couple of years, and it's kind of hard to do that with his number.
all right, everybody. Well, we have a special guest on here today. It's Phil Hulett. You know him as the Ducks PA announcer. Welcome to the show, Phil.
Thank you very much, Mike and Eddie. It's a pleasure to be on Ducks and Pucks.
Phil, you and I became friends basically in the beginning of the season, and through social media and growing up and all that. And it's great to have you on here and to finally talk to you. You're actually our first official member of the Ducks organization, so thank you for coming on and talking to us.
Oh, great. Nobody else official has spoken to you, huh? Or has nobody spoken to you officially?
Well, they've spoken to us officially through Facebook and other forms of social media, but you are the first official on the podcast from the Ducks organization.
All right. Well, it's a pleasure to be here, and sometimes I try to speak off the record when it comes to the Ducks organization because I'm not necessarily speaking on their behalf. But I think today we ought to be okay. You're not going to ask any hardball questions, are you?
Oh, of course not, Phil. Of course not. You're my one of my idols. I'm not gonna.
Oh, come on.
Hard. Of course.
Easy now.
Yeah.
All right. So what's on the agenda?
No, I was just kind of curious, like, when there's a game day and you wake up and you go through what you have to do for the day, do you have like a set routine? Do you have any like rituals? Because hockey players love rituals. Is there anything like that you do throughout that day to, just get ready for the home game?
Well, yeah, the day is fairly laid out for me. I get up at 2:30 in the morning typically on a weekday to get out to Los Angeles to do my morning radio show on KFWB.
Right.
And once I'm done there at 10 o'clock, then the next part of my ritual goes into work because I need to drive out to the Los Angeles Harbor where I have a top secret broadcast studio. That's where I do my second radio show of the day. So first things first, it's LA's Morning News with Penny Griego and Phil Hulett. And then in San Pedro, it's As We See It with Phil Hulett and Friends. And that goes on at 2 o'clock Pacific time.
Right.
Also on KFWB in Los Angeles, but that show is going to be syndicated here real soon, so people will hear it across the country. Maybe we'll even go into Canada for you, Eddie.
Oh, that'd be nice. Don't got many radio shows here.
And then I'm done at 3 o'clock there, and I've got on a hockey night. I've got to rush home, get a quick shower and a shave, get into my suit, grab my hockey bag, and head out to Honda Center, where if I'm lucky, I show up by 4:30 for a 7 o'clock game. But it's, I might be there 5-10 minutes late. We're having a pre-game, we call it, a show call meeting, because we really are putting on a show. I'm part of the entertainment side, even though I'm officially part of the game, because what I announce makes things official. When I announce a penalty or I announce a goal, it actually makes it official, and that's when it goes into the official score. But I'm part of the show as well, so we have a show call meeting. The camera people are there, the guys that put all the video up on Honda Vision, and the sound guy is there. All the other people they've got the headphones on that are behind the scenes that make everything work, from the anthem singer to the contestants that come out onto the ice to the guy who's working the crowd with the microphone during the game out in the seats. All of those people are in that meeting, and we go through the script for the evening. I download that script onto my tablet, and then from that point I go out to my spot right there in the referee's crease, right on the glass, on the red line, and I set up my tablet. I set up a TV where I could see the same video that's up on Honda Vision, because I'm practically beneath it. And so for me to be on the microphone, I need to be able to look down instead of up, and be able to look at my script at the same time as well if there's something I need to be reading in between game elements. And so we rehearse the opening of the game. There's all kinds of music and lights and video, and I introduce the team, and then I announce who the starting lineup is for the team, and then I introduce the anthem singer, and we go through that routine there. And sometimes I have to introduce a color guard, maybe a local Marine Corps or National Guard, somebody like that, or Boy Scouts. And from that point, the ritual goes to the press dining room, and that's where very often I will just eat a lot of food. And then I'll go up to the press level in the building, which is up on the 7th floor. And we have the 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th, and then we skip to the 7th. That's where the press level is. And I'll meet the visiting either radio or television play-by-play guys from the visiting team, and I'll read the roster of the players from the visiting team out loud, and I tell them to just kick me when I say one wrong. And then I'll write it on the page. I'll ask them to say it to me. I'll write it on the page phonetically, and then I'll practice that name so that I get it right. In the event one of the players' moms is in the building, I don't want to say the name wrong. I want mom to know that I'm respecting the family name properly. and then from that point on, I grab 3 bottles of water, 1 for each period. If we go to overtime, I'm a little out of luck, but I hope the water lasts me for the entire game. And then that's more or less the ritual. I do a couple more things. I have my own scorecard, which I bring to every game, and I write certain things in, the referees' names, the linesmen's names, the name of the teams that are playing tonight. And at the end of the game, after the scores are in, their goals and penalties, and if there's a shootout, that information's on there as well. I sign it, and I usually give it to a little kid after the game. Unless the Ducks get blown out, then I tend to throw those away. So that more or less is the ritual.
Yeah, I mean, are you just worn out after that? Doing everything, that full schedule.
Well, let's see. I get home around 10:30. I'm in bed around 11 o'clock, and I'm up at 2:30 to go back to work. Unless it's a weekend, then I may just stay up till 2:30 and then go to bed and then sleep till noon.
I know you have a lot of energy. I mean, that's amazing. That's just jam-packed schedule.
Digging ditches for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So when you're at the game, besides the Ducks winning and announcing and the things that you do, is there any certain part of a game that is your favorite part, a certain moment or a certain thing that you do or the team does or something?
Well, the part that really gets the adrenaline going is when I introduce the team, and they skate out, and then I announce the starting lineup, and especially when it's a playoff.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I try to stay within myself when I announce. Sometimes I lose a little control.
Right.
And I hit it real hard, and I think, I better save some of this for the rest of the game. But that for me is the most exciting time, and the second most exciting time. Well, I don't know. It's a toss-up. If it's a real important game or it's a tight game, and the Ducks score late to win the game, or they score in overtime in the 5-minute 4-on-4 to win the game, announcing that goal is about as it gets.
Oh, we love it when you say it. Can you say it for us?
Oh yeah, sure. You mean the patented style of doing it? I don't have it patented. It's patent pending.
Oh, okay.
For you public address announcers around the league, don't even try to steal this. But it goes something like this: Anaheim Ducks goal scored by number 8, Teemu Selanne.
That's the best.
And there's more to it. And but I won't get to say that anymore. I might get to say his name, I believe, on January 11, when the Anaheim Ducks hockey organization officially retires the number 8 and hoists the jersey up into the rafters.
Yeah, the news just came out, and we're excited. I mean, I know he's your favorite player. He's my favorite player. He's a lot of people's favorite player. So I will definitely be in the building that night for sure.
Yeah, my dear old mom tried several times to propose to him from the, but Mom, he's married, he's got kids. Come on.
That's awesome. That's awesome. This season we've seen a lot of change going on with the team and the lineup. Do you have any predictions or comments on anything with the lineup?
Well, I'm excited about most of the moves. I could say that it's going to be interesting to see what Kessler does. There has been some discussion that maybe the first line will have Heatley out there. Did I get the name right?
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but Heatley might be on the first line with Perry and Getzlaf. And that'll be interesting to see. I mean, Heatley, I got to believe he's got another 20, maybe 25 goals in him. He's getting on in his career, but maybe a little change in the scenery, maybe getting to live in Southern California will do something for a guy. And we've seen situations where guys who are on the back end of their career have just had a little bit of a change in their chemistry with the players, and all of a sudden they have wow, where did that come from? And I think Heatley potentially has that, and he brings a lot of experience to the locker room, which is good because you lose that with Teemu, you lose that with Koivu not being there this year, and so to have another veteran involved, and hey, when you look at it this way, Getzlaf and Perry are veterans now, aren't they? and to have them all on the same line, and then the second line with Kessler out there in the center, it's just going to be something to watch. And I like the way things are going with the defense. We still have the core guys, and the young guys are back. I think the way things are shaping up, we could have a real good team. And I'm not worried at all about between the pipes with Anderson and with Big John over there. I think we're going to be fine.
Yeah, it's looking like it's gonna be an interesting season coming up. A little bit different than last year without Selanne and Koivu, obviously. But I was wondering if there's anything you thought that they didn't address in the offseason so far that you thought maybe that they should have brought somebody in for.
Well, you know what? We got a little more boom boom with one of the additions on the defensive side, and forgive me for not remembering the guy's name. Maybe you could inject that when
Clayton Stoner.
Exactly, Stoner. Ducks signed Stoner was the headline, and folks up in Washington and Colorado all of a sudden were fans of the team. But the one thing I think we still may be missing is that 40-point defenseman.
Yeah, I think Fowler might be able to jump in there this season.
Well, you know what? He does get close to the 40-point, but he gets a lot of assists. I think there's a scoring defenseman out there maybe that we could find, and I don't know when we're going to find it or who that guy is, or even if we're in a position to get somebody at this stage of the game. Fowler may eventually mature into that. One of the other younger defensemen, I think, might eventually mature into that thing. We've got a couple of young guys who can stand to put on 20 or 30 pounds and some muscle and maybe circle around the top of the attacking zone and have one of those just rifles from the blue line, or maybe somebody that just jumps into the middle and upsets the visiting goalie from in front of the crease and just sits there and wreaks havoc on the attacking side, or when we're on the power play. For definitely, if some big defenseman could be in front there and make a lot of noise and do some damage, I think that would be great. And I think the guys we have are all capable of doing that. If there is one area where I think we could use a little extra power, that's a guy that can score from the blue line, not only on the power play but 5-on-5.
Yeah, and with all the additions that we've made so far, and with guys looking to step in the lineup from Norfolk, do you see us having a chance of getting past LA this year, getting past the Chicago's, St. Louis, all those teams that added anybody and making a real Stanley Cup charge this year?
Yeah, you know what? I think really it still is more or less the way it was the previous season when the Ducks and the Kings played in the second round. I really thought that whoever won that was going to win the Stanley Cup, and certainly that's what happened. And I think we're in the same position. I don't believe that Chicago or St. Louis or Boston or Montreal or whoever it is that's going to come out of the East this year, I don't think any of them are as good, even on paper now, as the Ducks or the Kings. Kings got a little stronger. Ducks got, I think, a lot stronger. And I think it's going to come down to the West, and it's going to come down to, again, either the Ducks or the Kings. And as hard as it is to repeat, I think that puts the advantage in the Kings' court.
Yeah, people always seem to forget that or at least on the outside of the Ducks fan base, that we finished with 116 points last year, top of the West, and we always get put behind the Chicago and LA for on the rankings, and we seem to get pushed aside, but we definitely finished above them last year, and we only added and got stronger.
I scoff at the power rankings every time I see them.
Oh, I know, yeah. NHL brings them out every year. We were on top for maybe like 1 week of the year when we were on that winning streak at home, and then they popped us off right away after Chicago won one game. So we weren't on there for long. For playoff experience, I was wondering if how you think the 03 run when you were there compares to the Stanley Cup playoff run when we won the Cup, because you experienced both. Or which one do you think was more exciting?
Well, I'll tell you, the 03 was special because it was the first one for us to go that long. And vanquishing the champions, first of all, Detroit, and the series with Dallas was just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to discount the series with Minnesota either. But then when we got to the series, the Stanley Cup final with the Devils, I still believe to this day, if they didn't finish, if it wasn't a best of 7, if it was just a best of until somebody wins 2 games in a row, I think we might still be playing that 0-3 series.
Yeah. It was, yeah.
Because every time whoever had home ice was going to win. And until somebody broke, ice on their opponent's ice, I think that's when it would have been over. But it was just a spectacular series at the time. It was such a memorable series, and it was the first one, and there was so much excitement. And I could say, and I'll be honest with you, compared to the excitement in the building from the 03 Mighty Ducks building with the fans, and then the 07 excitement, it's a close tie. But I got to say, because it was so new in 03, that audience was just so loud and so excited. And I gotta give the excitement level to the 03 crowd, but there's nothing better than winning, and that's why 07 is going to last forever in terms of the best fan experience, even though I think there was a little bit of an edge in terms of the building and the noise and the excitement in 03.
Yeah, I've still got that Scott Stevens hit on Paul Kariya ingrained in my memory from that 03 run.
Yeah, epic. And then to get back out there off the floor and then score the goal with Kariya off the left wing, it was just something else.
Yeah, with Selanne's jersey getting with his number being retired, do you think Paul Kariya, with some of the animosity he has with the fans in Anaheim, if he's ever gonna get his number retired along with Selanne?
You know what? I don't know that. Gosh, I don't want to say for sure, because that's going to be something the front office decides. But you know what? I think once Selanne's jersey is retired, I think Jaguar's gets retired as well.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
I think that's going to be the next one.
Those are like the only the candidates that really have a shot or left are really Selanne, Jiggy, and Paul Kariya. If you could make an argument for Scott Niedermayer, but he didn't really play enough seasons in Anaheim to really and he's already had his number retired in New Jersey as well, so
yeah, it's going to be interesting. There is that whole New Jersey thing with Scotty, but I think it goes that way. I think it goes Selanne, then it goes Jiggy, and then if there is another one, it's going to be Scotty.
Yeah.
But I have this feeling that they don't retire Kariya's jersey. But then again, keep in mind, I'm not speaking for the team or the front office. That's just my feeling, as that's my personal opinion. I don't think they do it.
Yeah, I don't think they will either, Phil. It just seems like what happened after he left. Taking that contract at Colorado for less money, it just seemed to kind of, upset a good enough portion of the fans.
But I'll tell you, if there is a decision in favor of Kariya's jersey, I could tell you who's gonna be the deciding vote. It'll be Teemu Selanne.
I agree. I think it will be. Speaking of Teemu, what do you think about the news of him going to Finland? Do you think he might go over to Jokerit and play?
Play for Jokerit. If he does,
yeah,
at least for one season, that would be a lot of fun. I know he loves spending time in Helsinki, in that area. I mean, when we went out there several years ago and began the season, and they played that exhibition game against Jokerit, and then we went on to just have a dismal time out there to begin the season, frankly, in terms of the actual games that counted. It's just, again, my opinion, my theory. I think because that was Teemu's neighborhood, it is highly possible. Okay, it's likely that Teemu was having such a big party for the players out there,
right?
That they were just chugging on the ice and weren't able to bring their A game because they left it at Teemu's house. They're in Helsinki. That's just my theory. I can't confirm any of that, and of course, Teemu's gonna hate me for saying it out loud, but I have a feeling that there was a little too much fun going on there in Teemu land. But that to answer the question, I think he loves playing the game. My mom says, "What don't you think he'd make a good coach?" I said, "Well, yeah, I think he might. His son's growing up playing hockey. He might want to watch that for a while. I don't know. It's going to be hard to see if he does end up coaching, but I think he wants to play for a little while longer. And at his age, the guys on Jokerit and in that league, what is it? The KHL, is that what it is?
Yeah, they just joined the KHL this coming up season.
Yeah, I think maybe the speed of the KHL might suit where he is in at his level of play now at 42 years old. He might actually end up being one of the top scorers in that league. So that might be fun for him.
Yeah, and Koivu, Saku Koivu, he hasn't signed with anybody either. What do you think? Maybe he might go over there with Teemu for a year or so?
Well, I think that might be fun. I think that would be huge news. And as popular as Jokerit is now, there might be a bunch of people that want to take little tours up to Finland from out here to watch those guys play together.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, Phil, thank you for having you on our show this time. We hope to have you back closer when the season gets near, and we can talk to you more at that time.
Yeah, well, anytime you need something, if you need me to just pop in and answer a quick question for you, I'm always happy to do it.
We really appreciate it, Phil. Thank you for being on the show.
All right. You're welcome, guys. Take care.
All right. That was Phil Hulett. We want to thank him again for being on the show. We're going to try and get him back on the show closer to the start of the season. It's great having him on here. And we're going to move on now to our NHL news around the league. Not too much happened other than the Teemu Selanne news, which we already covered. But we saw that Daniel Winnick got picked up by Toronto, Eddie, for a one-year deal.
Yeah, Lehner re-signed with Ottawa, I think, for 3 years, which is solid for them because he's their goalie for the future. And then obviously there's the news that kind of rocks everybody, I guess, the Subban arbitration news, where the fact that, I don't know if everybody knows this, but the Montreal Canadiens and PK Subban couldn't reach a deal. The only thing they agreed on was a 1-year contract, so now the arbitrator has to pick out a fee that was in between the two offers. The offer rumored to be put out by the Montreal Canadiens was in the range of $5.25 million, which is ludicrous offer, and I think Subban's camp was in the range of $8.25 million. So it's going to be in between that for 1 year, and then Subban becomes a UFA in 2016. So yeah, it's definitely interesting. And like last podcast, I talked about how Colorado was stupid to not lock up O'Reilly to a deal right away, and then Montreal pulls this, and it blows that right out of the water because you can't, like, Subban is what Montreal is offering him is on par with the 24th defenseman in the league. So you'd be ranking him, essentially Montreal's rank him as the 24th best defenseman in the league of what they wanted to pay him. I don't know about you, but that's severely lowballing.
Definitely. I mean, I don't understand what they're thinking, like you said. I mean, going for that kind of a price range and then to have to deal with this and go to arbitration and see Subban, I mean, God, I would be like, hey, Anaheim, we'll take him. You don't want to pay him the money. I mean, jeez. I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me. He's the guy that basically led the team in the playoffs last year. Price goes down, which is unfortunate, and they end up losing to the Rangers. But I have to think if Price is in there, they probably beat the Rangers. I don't know if they would go on and beat the Kings, but they would definitely have gone, I think, to the finals, Eddie.
Yeah, and it doesn't look good for Montreal either. With a lot of the comments coming out of it, I know TSN Bob McKenzie. He was on Twitter. A couple of things he tweeted out was that the arbitrator has to hand down a ruling on the Subban salary within 48 hours, and that both teams requested a 1-year deal. Montreal and Subban are still free to negotiate a long-term contract up until the ruling comes down. But it doesn't seem like that's going to happen because Bergevin came out and reported the meeting and said he had nothing to say. And Don Meehan told Sportsnet that there are no plans to continue negotiating a long-term contract. So it just seems like from the media report that talks went probably as worse as they possibly could. I don't know. It looks like Subban enjoys playing in Montreal, but could I see him leaving in 2 years in UFA? It's a lot more possible than it was yesterday. Like I'm not gonna bite the bullet and say yes, he's moving away from Montreal, but it's definitely more possible.
Yeah, I mean, things are definitely not solid as far as his relationship with Montreal moving forward, at least, long term in the future. All right, and to finish off our podcast this week, we'll take some fan questions as we've done in the past. We have Tom from Glendale asked who the alternate captains will be. Eddie, since Koivu and Selanne are gone, who's going to fill in those spots? Who do you think will be the next two alternate captains?
Uh, I could see Boschman because he's one of the main veterans we have on the squad. Uh, I Perry's name's been thrown out there. I don't know. He's getting up. He's could be considered a veteran on this young team. I think Boschman is probably the most likely option. Other than that, if I'm just running through the lineup in my head, yeah, I think it has to be maybe Kessler, but he's new to the team, and then Perry. That Heatley probably not either because he's probably not the best leader. So yeah, I would say Boschman, Perry, and then maybe Kessler.
I agree with you. I think those are three of them too. The other two I kind of was thinking about is maybe especially, with Lovejoy's recent comment. I mean, I know he's kind of young. It's only been a short time on the team too, but he may be another one to throw in there if Beauchemin doesn't take it. If you pick one defensive player. And another one could come to mind too is Cogliano as well. I could see him maybe possibly if they don't go with Perry. Or Kessler, I could see them going with Cogs. I think those might be another good choice too.
Yeah, I think when they finally get decided that we'll see that it's going to be one of the guys we mentioned. I think Perry's on the outside, and then since you mentioned, I think the front runners are Cogliano and Boschman, and then Lovejoy and Perry and Kessler are on the outside. So yeah, I think most likely are Cogliano and Francois Boschman.
Yeah, they're probably the top two of that group. So hopefully we'll find out soon. And that's kind of our prediction for the top two there as the alternates. The next question that we had was from Greg and Cerritos, and he asked, with all the Ducks moves in the offseason, have the Ducks done enough? And we kind of talked about this in the last podcast. We talked about it on this one, and we talked about it with Phil too. It looks like as far as the offense goes at the winger and center position, I would say the Ducks have done enough. I mean, we kind of beat a dead horse about the face-off situation. And they went out and got Kessler, and then you got Thompson, who also led Tampa Bay in face-off winning percentage in the playoffs last year. You had Raquel that had a really good face-off percentage as well in the playoffs last year. So I think we're good at the center and winger positions. And like we said, the defense right now is solid. It's good with the 5-6 players we talked about earlier in the podcast. But I think in order for the Ducks to go all the way, I think one more big body type defenseman with a big slap shot would put us over the edge. What do you think, Eddie?
Yeah, that's been thrown around, and I definitely think adding an established top four guy, keyword is established, because I think like I said earlier, we give the rookies this 1 year to step up and show they might be able to fill that role, because there's no point in going out and trading away guys to get that when we might already have it. I think we have enough to go all the way right now. That's if Lindholm, Vatanen, Fowler it can step up and play those three top four roles that we need. I have full confidence that Fowler will come out with a strong season again. He's been working on his defensive game for a while now, and it's finally showing. Lindholm had a strong season last year. He's one of the bigger guys on the lineup at 6'3", so he could be that guy. He could be that big big body. For 6'3", he's still a big body. We can say, if we consider Corey Perry a big body, if Lindholm can put on some weight, he's definitely could be that guy. He has a good shot. He showed that he was very calm in his own end defensively, and he put up 30 some odd points. So he could be that guy, and I think we should give him the chance for this season to show that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think if we feel there's a need, like a lot of fans say that there's a need, maybe something happens before the trade deadline. And we get that person, but it'll be interesting to see what transpires, in the first month or two of the season, and how we come out swinging.
Yeah, I think we'll be like I said, we've kind of overkilled now. It'll be interesting to see how the season starts, to say the least. But I think we'll be okay. It might not live up to the excitement and record-setting season that was last year, but we got better. So. I wouldn't be surprised if the season was just as good, if not better, than last year.
Oh, definitely, man. I mean, like we said, is it October yet?
I think everybody wants it to be October yet. I'm a little bit done with Blue Jays baseball right now. So.
I hear you. I mean, it's like, let's go, let's get this started. Just a couple other things on the podcast, just to round up here. We did a little T-shirt giveaway today. I just wanted to thank all the fans. The podcast has actually done really, really well in just the 3 short weeks that we've been on. And we had a contest today. We gave away 5 shirts early this morning, and look for those next season. I did some of that during the playoffs last year, and I'm going to do some of that during the season and the playoffs this coming year. And also our fan follow of the week is Ref You Suck. The owner of that, Brian, actually is a friend of mine, helped me out putting together the blog on the website initially. He kind of set me up in the right direction, gave me pointers on what to do and how to do it, and just want to thank him. If you don't follow him, I would. He's got some funny T-shirts out there, some funny hats for not just hockey but other sports as well, in regards to our love for referees. So follow him, and thanks for listening. We'll catch you next week. Anaheim Ducks!